mostly they're not used to getting that kind of question. I think mostly what they hear is, what's wrong with you? Or what's the matter? Or will you stop being such a horse's butt? I feel like January 18th, 2022, are on the precipice of having so many people in a disagreeable mood for so many different things, that if we just learn how to give each other a little bit more space and not take personally what anybody says at all, and be curious about how does this build a road for us to go down together, in the future. And Ken, I know you're a master at being able to be inside of testing conversations and still kind of either be tapping your shoulder or whatever it is that you do to keep you mindful and present so that you can ask a better question. And I've seen you do it many times.
Yeah, that's just been a product, I think, of learning to rest in my own discomfort and not, like it's like, you ever have a loved one who's in pain, whether it's emotional or physical or whatever, and that makes you in pain, but you can't fix their pain to alleviate your pain. You have to be able to rest in your own pain in order to properly support them in theirs, in their process, but that's very hard for people. So we try to fix it. We try to make their pain go away the way we'd make our pain go away, which may or may not work, you know. So when so it's just an interesting thing. And I think as an athlete you learn this because your training is uncomfortable. It's not fun. It hurts a lot of times. It's, you're causing all kinds of stressors on your body and your mind. But if you've committed to the outcome you want from the training session, you've got to learn how to live in that discomfort because that's just where you are, and wouldn't it be nice if you could just take a pill and get the same result without the discomfort, but you can't. So, so it's just funny as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking about that a lot is just our relationship. I think Tony Robbins said it once. We're either moving away from pain or towards pleasure, on an instinctive level. So, but if we're unaware of that instinct on a conscious level, now we're going to be in a state of reaction. And, so if you look at what's polarization, their belief system makes me uncomfortable. I want to go over here. I'm going to move away from that pain and towards the pleasure of all these people who think like I do. And now it's an us against them,
Mm-hmm.
So, but I feel better until they intrude on me again because they broke into my bubble and now I don't feel good. So I'm going to run even farther away and find some more fanatical people that really, really think like I do and attack anyone who doesn't. And I feel better again. And,
Or maybe running to people who look like they're having more fun in the world, and at least they're not getting beat up as much, right?
yeah, sure. However you choose to process it. But in the end, I mean, the reality of it is, I remember someone saying to me, I was coaching them on, like doing a coaching thing, and they're like, I don't want to have to exercise for the rest of my life to be healthy. And I'm like, well, that's going to be a problem. I mean, you're just, if you stop exercising, that will have an impact, and probably a lot of it will be negative. So, but I don't like, but they're like, but exercise isn't fun. I don't enjoy it. It's uncomfortable. Okay. Let's try to find exercise that you can somewhat enjoy but there's always going to be this discomfort. So now it's really just, what's your relationship with it?
Yeah. Yeah, some people think that being well is better than being a little bit uncomfortable exercising.
No, but see,
Yeah, and I mean,
supports it too, because if you see results, then I think, even in exercise, but, I was watching Forks Over Knives documentary on eating more plant-based, whole food plant-based, and how uncomfortable people are at the beginning because I don't know how to eat plants or how to
Hmm.
cook them, or but then they get all the advice and start doing it, and all of a sudden they're off all their meds and they've lost weight and they look better, feel better. And so I think with anything, if you see the results, not that that makes you stick with it, but I think that's a or know that results will happen, and then
Yeah,
celebrate those small results, like we've talked about
yeah.
before, honoring that.
Well, it can be challenging. Those results usually take time and they're
Yeah.
subtle. And, it's like exercise. I mean, more and more exercise, they're saying it can help, mitigate the risk of Alzheimer's and, but exercising when you're 35 for something that may or may not happen,
Yeah. Yeah.
35 years down the road, that can be a tough sell.
Yeah.
So, so it's really just now you're just doing almost like risk assessment. Well, when you're 70, what do you want, how do you want your life to look, and then so now it's back to what level of discomfort are you willing to learn to embrace in the journey that is the home being the moment of your life right now, and the journey being the fact that that's a process that's happening whether you want it to or not. So, but it's not all like there's no, I don't know. It's funny. I think for some people, I know for me, I used to think in business like I was going to get it all right, and then it was just going to coast. And I remember the day when I realized this process is never going to stop. There is no right. There's just right enough for right now, and it's never going to stop ever, ever, ever until I stop. You know, like, and then it's going to go on in some other form without me. It's going to be indifferent to that. It'll change, but so it's kind of interesting if you're, oh, I'm working to retire, or I'm working to be healthy, or I'm working, to have the perfect relationship. That view is going to, create some challenges for you.
So it's very interesting, um, and I always like these people who, the question of, if you were going to go back and give advice to yourself when you were 20, what would that advice be? And for me, I would definitely tell that smartass, you might want to be a little bit more quiet, and you might want to listen more, and you might want to understand better before you start going 90 miles an hour. You'll be okay. It works out. Trust me, you'll be okay. Do you remember what it was like to be 20 years old?
Yep.
Well, say some more about that, please, because I don't.
It's kind of vivid for me because I was a angry dude. I was miserable. I was unhappy. I was unfulfilled. I was a mess. I did not like the person that was looking back at me in the mirror. So that's actually why I found martial arts, and that was what began the process. And again, the I guess that's the other interesting thing about it is if you the only way out is through becoming more skillful, and becoming more skillful means you have to position yourself to attract the right teachers, you know, over time, and then just decide what's real for you and what's truth for you in that moment, and then you know do some daily work. So, but yeah, I remember because it was a 5-year process of becoming a more positive person, and it was a very difficult, very committed, but I just decided I didn't want to be a jerk, and I didn't want to have a short temper, and those kinds of things. So, but it didn't happen overnight, like Lisa was saying. It's like switching your diet or whatever. The results happen slowly over time. So, but yeah.
What kept you going even back then?
Um, it was a couple things. It was part of it was my I had a very difficult um, childhood as far as biological father that left young and created a lot of ripple effects in my identity that I didn't know how to process and you know didn't really know how to ask for help with that. So so a big part of it was I didn't want to be the type of man that considered him to be.
Mhm.
So I was trying to just do the opposite and, and just
Every
be a
day.
better person, so and it was a very vague and and it's interesting because over time you learn to find forgiveness and compassion. He was doing the best he could. He's passed on, so that kind of thing. But yeah, it was really just looking around and recognizing that we have a choice as to the type of person that we want to be. I mean, we can have personality and we can have traits and we can have genetics and all that kind of stuff. But the reality of it is, you don't have to be a jerk. You don't have to, you can be nice. You can be a kind person if you choose to be. And so I just decided I wanted to be that, you know. And it was funny because it was that choice that led eventually to walking into a martial arts school to learn how to be a fighter and then seeing them teaching children and seeing the look on the kid's face and going, "Holy crap." Like it was something outside of me. It was seeing, that power, and these children having experience that I had in my family environment, but not through certain role models in my, family situation. So yeah, so it's just kind of an interesting thing. But it was slow and there was no real defining moment. Well, a couple, but
Yeah,
you know.
it's amazing. Our generation, and I'm including both of you in that, although you're probably at the edge of my generation. Um, we're probably the first crew in all of recorded history that ever took a minute to think about what could my way of being be. you know like we language it as I am the type of person, like, again, objectifying that it weighs this amount, is this big, and wears these kind of clothes, and as opposed to guys were changing their names. They're saying, my name is not Todd Smith anymore. I'm going to be known as Veronicus from now on, or Werner Erhard. I don't like this persona of being, who my parents raised. I'm going to reinvent myself, and I'm going to become this. And the whole notion, when I first, somebody mentioned to me in the early 1990s, you want to work on your way of being, Bill. And he said, "What are you talking about, Willis?" He said, "No, here's the thing, with practice, you can authentically become any human being that you want to be. You can you can take on board any positive characteristic that you think you would like to have, as opposed to always just reacting the way you've always reacted." And that kind of bent my mind for a little bit, because I don't think that I'd really given it much thought before that. And to hear you say, I didn't like the kind of person that I was, and I was not willing to continue being that way. How many people get to a point in their life where they say something like that and then actually do something about it? And how many people feel like they're the victim of circumstance, and this is all they got to give? That's particularly who we want to be talking to today in this particular episode. If there's anyone out there that's having that moment, and people in your family, close relations, regard you in a particular way and are unwilling to listen to your point of view any longer, they're not sure who you are, and you're sure they're not sure who you are. How do you engage that conversation going forward? As Lisa said earlier, a little bit at a time, until
And
all of a
yeah,
sudden.
yeah. And to
Yeah.
maybe change your family, not necessarily, but you don't pick your family, obviously, they say, but then there's your spiritual or, other family, like people end up getting close to. And